Thank you all. Yeah, as I'm introduced, my name is Bart. My last name is Van den Akker, but I couldn't let him speak that because it's American. So I'm going to tell a little bit about the Home Computer Museum. And
he didn't let me try.
No. I'm going to tell a little bit about the Home Computer Museum and its history. But first, I'll introduce myself slightly more. So who is this Bart guy? And this is the boring part of the presentation. So I'm basically, this is myself in 7 pictures. As you can see, I drum kit. I do play drums. I have too many guitars. So there's a few. I have I like Weird Al Yankovic, which is kind of odd if you're in the Netherlands because nobody else knows Weird Al Yankovic, but I do. I like Linux, as I said. You see the Home Computer Museum there in the corner, and my family in the middle because that's the most important after all. And my 1993 Chevy van, which is leaking a lot, but still drives, and I love to drive it. My neighbor doesn't like it because it's a V8 and all that sort of stuff. In the Netherlands, that's extreme to drive a V8. So, how the museum started. Now let's go back slightly in time. So this is how it started. This was my collection back in my garage in Helmond. This is already a 3D shot. Behind there was no way you can even sit because it was filled with computers. I actually built that garage to play drums in, but in this period of time, my drum kit permanently lived in my car because it didn't fit in my garage anymore. This is how it ended, and of course you can guess how it came in between because of karaoke. That's the logical thing you have to do, right? You have a collection of computers, and you end up with a museum. In between, there's karaoke. Maybe I should explain that a little bit. So that has to do with this part of the 7 pictures of me. As I said, I played drums. And I started out playing drums when I was 4 years old. At that time, I also had a computer, by the way. I had a Tandy TRS-80 color computer too. That was my first computer. And I was also playing drums. And eventually, I was good enough to join a band, which happened in 2003. And I joined the Rocking Coffee Band, which was a rock and roll tribute band. So if you ever wonder what is that weird thing on the side of his face, yeah, that's because of the rock and roll era I've been in. I played rock and roll. Well, one thing, what happens with rock and roll music, especially the 50s and 60s rock and roll music, is you do backing vocals. Well, I became a drummer for a reason. I can't sing. So I tried to do the ootje and the aas. I could do that. That was fine. But still, you know, I didn't feel like comfortable. So I did some singing lessons. And my singing teacher back in the day said, you know every technique you need to know about singing. But the only problem you have is you don't dare to sing. So, but I was okay in this band. Well, like many other bands, this band also collapsed. In 2008, we split up because I was married to the bass player, and the bass player went away with the singer. So that was a split up for both the band and my marriage. But I kept on doing things, and eventually I became a pirate because I joined a band called Pirates. We were doing pirate music, sea shanties in a rock way, and we toured a lot throughout the world. Basically, we've been to the south of England many times. I toured for 4 weeks in the southern part of England. We did Germany, Belgium, France, the Netherlands. We were away a lot. In 2014, actually, I was away for 75 times. I did 75 shows in 2014. I did 75 shows. Even when my wife was pregnant, I went away on tour for 4 weeks. And we're still married, by the way, just so you know. But being in a pirate band, especially in the folk rock world where I was, backing vocals were even more important. And I found out, listen, this is, I need to be better. So I tried another singing teacher. And it took me exactly 2 weeks, and then the singing teacher was like, yeah, you can sing, that's no problem. The problem is you don't dare to sing. All right. Well, great. This is not helpful. So I was looking around, and I found... I was looking around, but at some point I still remember it was on a holiday. I went on a holiday with my wife and my family and all the things, and it was in Turkey somewhere, and I was doing a karaoke. Just in front of, the people who were there at the holiday park. All great, all fun. And I was singing a song, which I knew I can sing perfectly fine. There's no worries about, I can sing that song. But I was singing it, and the first verse, perfect, nothing wrong. Everybody was silent, listening to me. However, the second verse, there it went wrong. I could listen, and I heard myself singing a completely wrong note. And immediately my whole voice collapsed. I didn't have any voice left. I could barely make it out of the karaoke. And I went off stage. Nobody cared. Really, nobody was caring. Everybody was enjoying themselves, drinking whatever they were drinking there. But I felt embarrassed. I was like, I can play in front of 15,000 people. I did. That's one of the pictures over there. That's actually a Guinness World Record, where most people dressed as a pirate on one location. There was 15,000 people. I was standing in front of them. But I was sitting behind a drum kit, so I was safe. I was in a safe space. So I didn't have to go in front. But I can't sing in front of people I never seen. I will never see again. And they don't care if I sing, but I didn't dare to sing. So I thought, how can this be? So I decided, you know what? I'm going to try it one more time. One more time, I'm going to try to learn how to sing. And I looked on the internet. Singing teachers I wasn't doing anymore. Figured out this is the same old story. So I went online, and I found this online course called, I don't recall anymore. It was an online course. And it was $100 or so. And you didn't have to do anything except for 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, following a course, just doing the things he was saying, not even online, not even live, just listening to videos, teaching. Okay, I did that. Let's try it. For $100, I can do that. So I was doing that and following it perfectly fine. Every day I was practicing the same amount and the same things. And eventually I was noticing I can do this suddenly. I was aware I can sing. And my singing became better. It really improved. And it ended up eventually by doing a karaoke in front of much more people. And most of the people I actually knew. It was some kind of event where I knew a lot of people. And I was singing in front. And I was singing Chris de Burgh, Lady in Red. And that's the one I was singing. It was karaoke, come on. So I was singing that, and everything went fine. It was SingStar or something from PlayStation, so you can actually see the amount of, if you keep your pitch and all the things. I had a score at the end of over 8,000 points, which was the highest of that day. A lot of people were doing the same karaoke. And I felt like I'm not doing it the way it should be, but I kept on going. And for some reason, I suddenly dared to sing. And that was a big revelation for me. Wow, I dare to do something. So what I do then is what everybody will do who is on the internet. I looked up the guy who wrote that singing course. And found him on the internet, and eventually found out he wrote a book. And this was the book, The Voice of Your Dreams. The book is also from Aaron Anastasi, he's also an American. So seeing this book, giving that he made singing lessons, of course, this is about singing, right? I was thinking that. So I bought the book. And I was reading the book and everything fine. Meanwhile, the band, the Pirates band, was also collapsing because the singer became a little bit crazy and eventually he fired every band member. That's how it ended. So I was reading this book. And one of the key things in this book is what I found out after reading the book. It's not about singing. It could be about singing, but it's not about singing in definition. It's about reaching goals. And reaching goals and how to reach that goal. And you have an inner voice that always says to you, you're not deserving this, nobody's coming to you, nobody's listening to you, all the negative voices. And basically what this book is teaching you how to ignore those negative voices and make them up to something positive. So, reading the book, I got removed from the band. Meanwhile, I still had a collection at home because I was already collecting computers for a while and collecting the stories around the computers. And instead of being on the road for touring with the band, I was now going to gatherings for old computers and going to all these fairs for old computers. So my wife said, listen, you have a garage filled with computers. You even put computers in my walk-in closet. Maybe you should do something with it. Well, given the fact that I'm, always trying to make a building out of it and trying to make a company out of something, I decided with this book in mind, what's my goal? What do I want to reach? I was also in a little bit of limbo. I was a system network administrator and I was fed up with that. Being on the phone, listening to customers saying, my computer is broken. Yeah, I know, else you won't call to me. So I was kind of fed up with that. So I didn't know what to do anymore. I was like, yeah, I thought the Pirates band would be my future. I thought I would be a professional musician, but the band collapsed, so that chance was gone. So I didn't feel like the right place. And then my wife said this, why don't you do anything with the computers? So I started to think, what do I want to reach? And what do I want to do? And one of the first things the book also says to me is the smallest step you can take to reaching your goal. And what is the smallest step to reach your goal? In my was write it down. So I literally picked up a piece of paper and I started writing. Remembering that when I was in England touring, I visited the Cambridge Computer Museum. And I was kind of disappointed in that. The computers were off, there was misinformation on the signs, and it didn't really feel like a good museum. It was like more of an art museum, and I thought this would be more of an interactive museum, but it was more of an arty museum. I figured, why not me? Why not? I'm not opening a museum. And of course, you can all think of all the reasons why not, but nobody tried. So I wrote down, and I started to write. And I wrote for about 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, the first thing I did was, okay, I want to open an interactive computer museum, but I want to have a clear focus, because a computer museum is a very broad spectrum. It's basically saying I own a transport museum. A computer could be a phone, a computer could be a traffic light, it could be a Tesla, or it could be a Commodore 64. Everything is a computer. And so that's a way too wide collection you should show. So I decided, okay, I want to have the computers that were used at home. Let me limit it to the computers that are used at home and limit it to the computers that are sold in the Netherlands and Belgium, because Belgium is also very small. So I figured this would be the collection, this would be the show I do. But I'm not collecting computers. I'm collecting stories. I will share stories, as a museum should do. So that's what's first thing. Second thing, I was planning, I can't do this alone. So I needed more people. And how can I get more people? Well, my sister has autism, and that's discovered very late, so when she was 20. Before that, she was just a tough learning child. That's how it was called in the Netherlands. But when it was discovered she has HDD, then a lot of things came together, and basically it came to, I was working with somebody with HDD for 20 years already, and at that time when I was 21, I had a girlfriend who was also into, she wanted to become a psychiatrist. Tough word in English. Sorry, I'm Dutch. So she was learning to do that at school, and I was like, this is an interesting one. And so I followed all her books. I was all reading her books. Eventually, we broke up, and I didn't continue that study. But I did remember a few things from that study, which was that you can make money out of it. And not money as in I can misuse people and try to let them pay for me. No. In the Netherlands, it's a system, a social system where you can have people with a distance to the labor market, and you put them in the museum, or you put them into a cultural environment, non-profit, it has to be non-profit, and you can learn them how to cope with the normal workforce. With the eventual, the end goal should be back to work. So somebody who is not used to work or is not has worked and fell out of work because of their autism, for example, they are, getting all the help they need, and eventually they have to return to normal work. But you can't just put them back to a normal work because they will fall back very soon. And this is you get money for that in the Netherlands. As a company, you get money from the government to do this. So suddenly I had this idea. In my work as a system network administrator, I came across a lot of people who have autism and don't know or do know it from themselves. But I was also the one that knew how to handle those people and knew how to speak with them, how to communicate. And I also saw the managers and the directors of these companies don't know that, and therefore they usually go out and they get calling in sick. They don't do their job very well, and eventually got fired. I've seen a lot of people that way lose their job, and some companies actually. I was one of the people that helped those people. Instead of trying to fire them, I was the one in between. The manager asked me to ask that guy or that girl to do something, and I was doing that. I was basically the translator. I can speak fluently autism. I can do that. 20 years of experience. So when I started with the Home Computer Museum, the second part, I need people. For me, it was really logical to help people with autism. I want people with autism inside the museum because I can help them, and I know I can make them happy, and I can bring them back to eventually a normal paid job and get them out of welfare. And that's what we do. Still, it wasn't enough because a museum is a terrible business plan. We can all agree to that, right? Museum is a terrible business plan. So, but in my opinion, it shouldn't be, because a museum is a business. So I needed some more, because I can ask for entrance fee, I can do tours, and I have these people working for me with autism where I get money from government. But I needed more. So I also started the commercial part. Instead of repairing and keeping all the knowledge of repairing the computers inside, I also offer it for outside. People can bring in their computers and I'll simply repair it. That's what we do. That's one of the things we do. We also do refurbishing of old computers. We also do reading old media. Think of discs. Think of old zip disks or anything like that. Companies come to us with a bunch of disks and we can read that. But we can also convert the data if we want to, because we have all the systems running, and therefore we can convert the data. And of course, for museums, we do that for free. For private persons, really depending on how much they bring in, but for companies, we charge money. So we have a business model. And in 45 minutes of me writing that, I came up with all these ideas. And I was just writing, without even thinking of this would be a business plan. I was just writing how to do it and what to do. And eventually it became a business plan. And that became the Home Computer Museum. So as I said, we have 4, basically what I call pillars. We have the museum pillar, which is the museum part, the collection we have. Currently over 2,000 computers. Where we do tours, we ask for entrance fee. We do tours for businesses, tours for schools, and we also go to fairs. And sometimes we get paid for that. And then we have the social part, which is the part with helping people with distance to the labor market. And we're also effective in that. Since 2022, when we started counting, we made 14 people back to the labor market. So 14 people started in the Home Computer Museum, worked there for a year or half a year or maybe 2 years, and then moved out to a normal paid job. And most of those people are still a volunteer at the Home Computer Museum because they like it that much. We have the commercial part I just explained, repairing computers, refurbishing computers, selling overstock, because we, as a museum, I'm not collecting computers. I only need a particular amount of computers to tell the story. So we have a collection of 3. 1 in the museum, 1 in the warehouse, and 1 in its original box. And the 4th one goes out and will be sold. That's simple rules, but it works because it also generates money. And the last one, which doesn't really make money, but we have knowledge. Currently, we have 50 volunteers, and we have 50 volunteers with a lot of knowledge. We have knowledge of all operating systems. We have knowledge of how to work with CRTs. We have knowledge of power supplies repairing, and we use this knowledge to help others. And I have knowledge about building museums, apparently. So I'm helping other museums. One of the things I'm doing is helping VCF, but I'm also helping an Apple museum in the Netherlands. I'm helping a museum in Brazil. I'm helping a museum in England. So I'm always open and helping other people just to make sure it will be a true museum. So what does a museum do? Because it does have a definition. The ICOM, the International Council of Museums, made a definition. Really? Yeah, see? This is the definition. You can all read it. But a museum is for a non-profit permanent institution in the series of society that researches, collects, conserves, interprets, and exhibits tangible and intangible heritage. That's a whole mouthful. It's not all. Open to public. You can read this on the internet, by the way, so I can skip it because I still have enough time. So basically what it is, what it says, if a museum is not collecting material, it's collecting stories and telling stories and sharing stories and making sure these stories are conserved. And these stories can be conserved using materials. And that's what we do. And we are open to public. It must be a public, so somebody's attic is not a museum and will never be a museum. There you go. Virtual museum? No. It's not a permanent institution. It's not open to public. It's a virtual museum. It's just a web page. Could be more web pages, but it's not existent. It cannot be existing. A lot of people call it a virtual museum, but still, it's ridiculous. Your garage? No, it's not a museum. It's not open for public. It would be a really weird garage if you have open to public. It's impossible. It's really not allowed according to the ICOM standard. A collector? That's a good question. No. A collector cannot have a museum. Collectors are collecting by their own, for their own. They're not sharing anything. They're not preserving. They could be preserving, I'm not saying that, but a collector is collecting material. A museum is not collecting material, a museum is collecting stories and sharing those stories. So there's a difference. It's a thin line, I agree, and I started as a collector. I'm open to that. But being a museum, I'm not a collector anymore. It's actually forbidden. In the Netherlands, it's forbidden. If you are a collector, you cannot start a museum because everything is owned by you, and that's impossible. So, museums collecting and sharing stories about objects, research and verify these stories and maintain objects and stories in a sustainable way. That's what a museum does. So we have a mission. Preserve and share the history of the home computer for and with current and future generations. So that's the Home Computer Museum. Basically, I already told this. The thing I said here is that we do computer repairs and are selling old computers, but I'm slowly getting out of time because you probably want to see what's inside the museum. So this is the museum. We have 11,700 and something square feet. That's the size of the museum, or 1,090 square meters in real numbers. yeah, we have a social media, which is huge. I do recognize a few followers here. It's not true. But we have over 40,000 followers on Instagram. We have 10,000 followers on Facebook, nearly 29,000 followers on TikTok, and we even have one follower on OnlyFans. We have an OnlyFans account because the rules don't say it should be naked women. We do collaborate with the National Library, National Heritage Ministry, National Archive, National Institute of Sound and Vision, and we are advising other museums how to run independently. Because we run independently. We receive no subsidy, we receive no sponsors, we don't have sponsors. Well, we have a few, but by far not enough to run the museum. We have no external money. But because we have a business model, because we run the museum as a business, we make our own money. And we can afford to pay €15,000 a month just to run the museum. It's sometimes very hard to do, but we can manage. And I'm not saying that we don't want subsidy. I'm not saying we don't want sponsors, but we are independent of that. If a sponsor decides, I'll retract my money, sure, we'll keep on continuing anyway. And the same for the city or for the Dutch government. If they don't give a subsidy, and the city of Helmond is actually now thinking of giving us subsidy, and we're helping them as well to do that, by pushing them slightly into, we want a bigger room. Give us money to get a bigger room. But if the city decides we're not giving you a subsidy, for any reason whatsoever, we still keep on continuing, because we still make money. We still continue. So here's a nice computer, if it goes there. Wow, slow. So this is one of the computers in the museum. It's called the STS. This is a design computer. It's a Dutch computer created in the Netherlands. This one is from 1985, but the brand started in 1981. It's one of the first CAD computers, computer-aided design. And we restored it. There are only 7 known to exist today. We have one, and that's the only one that's working. And that's all due to our technical team, and that includes me, fortunately. We managed to repair it after a lot of smoke came out, but eventually the smoke went back in and we managed to repair it. This is the only one working. And because we're doing this, and we are so active on social media, we got a lot of information which was lost, which was on attics, on people's houses, and former service engineers. We found them thanks to social media. Social media is really the thing that drives us, basically, which is kind of odd in these times. But because we are so active on social media, we have this contacts. We get this contacts, and we show everything, and we have let everybody show what we do. And because that people are contacting us, listen, we have this computer, and I used to work on this machine, and do you want this information, yes or no? And of course I want this information. What a stupid question. So yeah, we have one working. If you look on the Wikipedia article, that's the one we wrote, because we also added Wikipedia. Yes, that's us. We added Wikipedia. But yeah, we added this page, and there's also another one on there, which calls the Status 1, which is currently at the University of Amsterdam. And they also decided to get rid of it, and they are giving it to us. So hopefully in a few weeks we get 2 statuses. And of course we're going to repair that one, and of course we're going to show that on the internet that we have repaired that one. So yeah, we're getting now more into some pictures. So this is our technical repair. We have 8 people working at maximum over there. So 8 people at the same time, and basically you can throw anything at them, and they will throw it back. Eventually they will fix it as well. We have people that are able to repair CRTs. We have knowledge of that. Power supplies, basically anything that's computer related, we are fixing. And yes, my van includes as well, because my van usually breaks down, and then the technical guys also fix my van, which I'm grateful for. So, and the top right one there's a piece of our warehouse. As you can see, there are numbers on that. We are really strict in registering everything, because we have a strict limit on what we collect. we can easily say, okay, we are looking at, so every computer that comes in will be registered immediately. So there's no way we can forget it. Instead of just keeping it there or just putting it in the warehouse, no. Register it, give it a number, a unique number, put a QR code on it. We always QR code everything. And we also created our own app so we can easily walk in through the museum, scan out the computer and just see immediately who owns that computer, when it came in, does it work, yes or no, where is it, where should it be. And we can move it very easy and quickly. We can move it out because we can say, okay, this computer has moved to that location. And since it's logged in based, so everybody has his own login, we actually know who transferred a computer. And that's really something we are strict in. Yeah, repairs we do. That's a bit of repair. It looks like a mess, but it's actually kind of organized. Ooh. So this is one of the zones. We call this the 80s. This is the Z80 zone. So we have most of the computers over there are Z80 based. This is what you see if you enter the 80 space. We have the museum it's in a few areas. So we start in 1975 with the Altair 8800. We consider that as the first home computer. And from 1975 to 1979 is the first room. And then from 1980 to 1984 is the second room. And 1985 to 1989 the fourth. And 1990, 1994. And 1995 and up. Because 1995 was the boring year. Windows 95 was released and basically made everything shitty. Yeah. So this is the 80s room. So this is the biggest room we have. For obvious reasons, you know, most computers came out in the early 80s. So this is the 80s room. What do you have more? This is a part of the 70s. This is if you come in on the right side, on the left side, we have 70s. All these computers are working. Everything is working. Even that Tektronix one, which was a really pain in the ass to get it working, but it's working. Yes, the only thing I have to say is not working is the teletype. The teletype ASR33. That was also the only device we have to fix with WD-40. True story. And it does everything except for carriage return. So that's kind of annoying. But other than that, we're still, it's on our list to fix because we want to connect this one to the Altair and actually load in Microsoft Basic using the teletype and the Altair, just to show off how it went back in 1975. We have more. Oh yeah. This is again 1970s, that's the Altair. As you can see, we have set up these setups. And we put these setups up on purpose because people come in, and if you have worked with an Altair 8800 back in the day, this could have been your room. We have the original wallpaper. We put the desk is actually from the same era as the Altair. Even the desk, the chair is from the same era. Everything is put together with one reason. If people coming in, we want the stories. Because, again, that's what we collect. We collect the stories. The story of the manufacturer is quite easy because you can find that on the internet. But the stories of people using it, that's the most interesting. And how you get those stories? Well, things like this. Because they sit behind it, they see the whole environment. That's one, even as a phone. The phone is not connected yet. We will connect it eventually. You can actually dial in inside the museum because we find that funny. So people will see this and will sit behind the computer and actually typing and using this computer. And then they will start remembering. And hopefully those people will tell the stories. And then suddenly, instead of a piece of metal or plastic or whatever it is made of, it becomes a piece of heritage. Only because of the stories. So we have about 25 of these setups. I'll show you all of them. No, it's not true. So this is the pad. As you can see, we have the pad as well in a full setup, including the chairs. Apparently, there's a really expensive chairs, but I stole them from my aunt. She still had them. I was like, now it's mine. This one is completely refurbished as well. There's also a tape deck on there. It doesn't work anymore. It has nothing to do with the pad in there. As you can see in the display case, there's even a camera. Has nothing to do, but it's only because of the style. We only want to have people remembering. And you see always, oh, I used to have that camera. And suddenly you get the stories about those times. And those times are really important for us. What do you have more? This is the 90s area. Yeah, some photos are a little bit, it's really hard to make photos of the space because we have so much space. So we have zoom out and stuff. You can see the CDI collection over there. That's Philips CDI, something that's between 1991 and 1996 existed. Well, it existed from 1985 actually. We have the largest collection in the world with about 1,700 CDI titles, and we have nearly all hardware ever produced for CDI. And everything is digitized, and everything is uploaded to the internet. So we have made copies of every disk in there just to preserve them and make sure they are uploaded and we can share it to the world. We actually have a guy from France who drives every 3 months or so. He drives to the Netherlands just to come over for a weekend, just to copy out CDs. Sure, if you want to, you're welcome. We also have, yeah, it's hard to see, but we have Next computers. There's the Macintosh part, and behind us only Commodores. So we have the Amiga 4000, the 3000 Unix, 3000 Tower, all that kind of fun things. All repaired, all original. Yeah, this is from Windows 1.0. We actually run every Windows ever existing. Because we can. So we start with Windows 1.0 and then we go for the 2 and 3 and so on and so on up till Windows Vista. Yes, we also run Windows Millennium, in case you wonder. And yes, it's stable. But yeah, we show that because we show the history of Microsoft. The history of Microsoft is important, and therefore we show, you know, Windows 1.0 was surely a thing. We also run GOS, we also OS2, we also run BOS. We run Linux, IRIX, I think, yeah, IRIX as well. So we have plenty of operating systems running throughout the museum. This is how we call this a space bar. Has nothing to do with wheat or anything. It's just space bar. And the big cabinet over there is full of illegal discs. It's illegal software and illegal music. And the Netherlands were quite big in that. So we have about 1,200 to 1,500 of these discs, which are highly illegal. But we have put them up and we can show it. And yes, they know in the Netherlands about that. And they're fine with it, as long as we don't buy it or sell it or anything like that. So no money has to be involved and we cannot share it. So, but other than that, you can download most of them. So we're suddenly back to the 80s area, because logic. So we have this huge signs as well. We love to collect those. So if you happen to have a sign from, I don't know, any brand, let me know if it fits in my suitcase. And you can also see the Holborn computers over there, the ET lookalikes. Those are Dutch computers from a company that existed between 1979 and 1983. Only 200 computers are made. In total, we own 5 of them. And that's also the largest collection in the world, because nowhere else in the world there are 5 Holborn computers. The word Holborn actually means born in Holland. It's not my joke. So the IBM is really weird that it says that. This is MSX. So MSX was quite big in the Netherlands. We are in building C, and we got a lot of people saying MSX, that's only Japanese. No. The Netherlands was also very big in MSX because of Philips. We had Philips, and Philips was making MSX computers. So yeah, we had a lot of MSX between 1983 and 1989 roughly. So yeah, we have a lot of MSX computers. What do we have next? Oh, right. This is a part of the 90s. No, this is not 90s, 80s. So we have the Atari and Atari stuff. Above you can see all these display things. These are boxes, most of them. And all these boxes are full. because we have so ridiculous amount of computers, we have to put them in the boxes, because else there's no space for them. So this is one of the most photographed item in the museum. This is an Amiga 1000. For Europe, that's quite rare to have an Amiga 1000, but this is an original Amiga 1000. We also have the box with it, which is also full with an Amiga 1000. So we put this whole setup there, including the table, everything we match with the era of 1985 in this case. And next to it, there's an Amiga 2000 with several, in this case, Video 2000 objects. We also explain a lot about video and how that occurred. So VCR and VHS and Betamax and Video 2000, how are they related to each other? Because it has nothing to do directly with computers, but it's a nice piece of information to have. And I mean, an Amiga 2000 was obviously known for editing video, so therefore we can make that connection. So we also explain a lot of other things next to only computers. We do also a lot of extra items like Laserdisc, for example, is also a part we do, which is next to the CDI. We do Laserdisc. We have about 700 Laserdiscs. That's something I learned. Laserdisc, we at some point we got a Laserdisc player, one of the first Laserdisc players. Actually, yeah, the one of the first. And I thought maybe it's fun to have a Laserdisc. So I bought a few Laserdiscs. And I bought 5 or so. 5 Laserdiscs to show off, you know, what a Laserdisc is. And I'm not kidding, 2 weeks later, somebody called up, say, you want some Laserdiscs? Yeah, sure. And he brought them by, 600 of them. So what I learned about that is never buy stuff, because you get it as a museum. And I'm joking, the same for an Atari Jaguar. We're looking for ages for an Atari Jaguar. We couldn't find one. So eventually, after some negotiation, we bought an Atari Jaguar. And of course, a few weeks later, somebody donated an Atari Jaguar. Great. So yeah, 10D. We actually have, I think, one of the most complete 10D collections in Europe. We're only missing the 10D Model 16 and the 10D 6000 and the LT 1400 or LT 600. Those are the only ones that we're missing. Other than that, we have all models of 10D. And the Model 12 over there, which you see, has been upgraded, so it has the 68,000 card inside, so it runs Xenix, and that's incredibly rare. That's only one in Europe, as far as I know. Somebody's making a photo, so I'll wait now. All right. So this is kind of familiar for you guys. This is an Apple. This is the Euro Plus. One of the Apples that came out in Europe. Took till 1979 before Apple came out in Europe with the Euro Plus. This is the setup we have. The phones, as I just said, we are working on getting an old phone PBX analog, which is really hard to find because everybody threw that away for some reason. And we are connecting all the phones together, which we also need, by the way, because we also have dial-up internet in the museum. You can actually dial up the internet, and yeah, we have internet using proxies. So we use proxy to web.archive.org. So basically, every computer you choose from 1996 on, you can dial up to the internet and see web pages from the era that the computer was released. So that's also a neat thing to do. I still have 5 minutes left. Less now. This is an XD Sorcerer, which is also one of the more famous computers in the Netherlands. For you guys, it's a very rare item. For us, we get annoyed by them. We get so many in of the XD Sorcerers. We just throw them away now. It's just like crappy machines. Yeah, they were quite big because of a TV course. In 1979, there was on TV a course about how a computer works, and you could buy XD Sorcerer with that. So a lot of XD Sorcerers were sold in the Netherlands. Actually, so much that the manufacturing of the XD Sorcerer happened in the Netherlands. So a lot of XDs were produced in the Netherlands. Why? Oh, that's not comfortable. So Commodore. We have Commodores as well. Yeah, Commodore. We are also kind of complete on Commodore. I think we have all of them now, including prototypes like the VC1001 and the Commodore Max. We are actually working on a C65. We expect that this year. We expect a C65 in, a real one. So we are kind of complete on that. Atari, we are complete. Sinclair, we are complete. We have all models ever released for Sinclair. And we try to have all these different computers. In total, we have 1,500 different computer models in the museum. So that was basically the presentation. Does this see? I'll go back then. So one further. It had questions, but it lost questions. So that was my presentation about the Home Computer Museum. I truly hope that you are able to come over to the Home Computer Museum. You're more than welcome. I mean, we're open 5 days a week, so kind of hard to miss. And if you really ask nicely, we can even go on the Monday or Tuesday. We can open if you want to. And if you have any questions, feel free to fire them now. Thank you.
You said you're centered on computers just from Belgium and the Netherlands, right? But you're really close to France and other European countries. Have you thought about expanding onto some of the computer systems that they were using at home?
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a big difference in the French mentality and the Dutch, for example. And yes, for US distances, it's relatively close. For us, it's relatively far. So we do have a lot of, we do have French computers, we do have German computers as well, but it's not the primary collection we have. It's more additional collection. We do have Thomson computers from France. We do have the Alice computers, but we only show it just because we can show it and we have them. But they were not sold that much in the Netherlands. And trying to get all the computers in the world is impossible, because we are not even talking about the old Yugoslavia computers or the Eastern Bloc computers. Those are ridiculous. We have a few, so I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's a whole different world, and it's impossible to try to collect those. And then we're not even speaking about South America, for example. There's also a big way of computers, and we only have 11,000 square feet, so there's only so much we can hold.
You mentioned the difference between a collector and a museum. So you were a collector.
Yes.
How did you transition your collection as to start up the museum? And if you did, can you speak a little bit about how you gave up your collection to start a museum, if that's what you did?
That's what I did. Yeah. The collection, I used my collection as a base to make the museum. But in the first year, I basically gave away all my computers to the museum. And I don't own any old computers anymore, which is also not forbidden, as I just mentioned, because there's also this conflict of interest. Being a director of a museum or a CEO of a museum, if you have your own collection of old computers, you could say, I picked this computer for the museum, but eventually take it for yourself. And that's illegal. So therefore, a collector cannot be a museum. However, a collector can become a museum eventually, but he has to give away all his collection to the museum and also limit himself. That we have 3 of each, but when I had a collection, I had like 20 Commodore 64s. So I have to give them away or to sell them before eventually I gave them to the museum and the museum sold them. But yeah, we have a collector is only collecting material and try to collect as many Commodore 64s or as many Apple IIs he wants to, because there's no limit on it. He can set a limit to himself, like I only have my attic is this size or my garage is this size. But they don't have a limit. They don't need to have a limit. But a museum does need to have a limit, because there's no use for me to collect more than 3 of every computer. Because I'm only telling the story, and I need one computer to show the story, and the second one as a backup, and I do want the box around it, and I want the box filled, so that's the third one. But I don't need 4.
You mentioned about the cataloging and inventory tracking. How and where do you decide where to put that QR code? I mean, I don't know if you have like a specific product, but do you ever feel like, oh, I'm defacing the computer now, like gluing this tag
Out of
to it?
sight. Out of sight.
On the side?
That's,
So you don't see it when you're standing in front of it, but it's
No.
still easy to find?
Yeah, it's usually on the bottom or on the back of the computer.
Okay.
Out of sight, and it's on a place where we can remove it, even if it left some residue on it. We can easily clean that, but it shouldn't be on all the stickers or something like that. So we really focused on where to. Yeah, we have some interns at some point who actually use the CRT and put it right in the middle of the CRT. We're like, dude, why are you doing that? So that was a bit of a mess. But yeah, other than that, it's out of sight. So basically, when you visit the museum, you don't see QR codes. And if we need to know what a QR code is, yes, that means we have to pick up the computer and turn it over or see the back or something like that.
And it's just some off-the-shelf, like asset tag style stickers?
No, we created it.
Oh.
That's the fun part of having a computer museum. You also get a lot of IT guys in. And those people are usually much better in doing programming and stuff. So we build our own programs. It's also cost effective, by the way, because those programs are really expensive.
I was just wondering, you had mentioned about the fact that you are in this as a business and you're able to make enough money to cover everything. How are you doing that? Like, is it just through admission to the museum? Is it through other channels?
Well, by working hard is always my question, almost the answer. Now, we have a combination of entrance fee we ask. We ask for €10.24. That's the entrance price. And for those who understand, they really should visit. We do the social part where we get money for reintegrating people into the work society. Okay. And we do commercial services like computer repairs and reading old media, which we call digital heritage.
Okay, thank you.
I'm seeing on your website something called Adopt a PC.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate?
If you adopt a PC in the Home Computer Museum, we will make sure it will get fresh power, really fresh power. At least once a week, we turn the machine on, and it will be active in the museum. So that's funny, and you get a year of entrance for free. So basically, your name will be tagged on the computer as well. So your name will be as well on the website as on the information sign. Your name will be there on, and you could put everything on there if you want to. Even your business name if you want. I don't care. I'll just put it there. It's fine. You're welcome.
How strict are you with keeping period correctness and actual hard drives or floppy drives or CRTs in the terminals? If your IT guys, cannot get an old MFM that came with that working.
True. We try, of course, to keep it as original as possible, but there are things like MFM drives that has to be changed. So we change that with something that's not visible on the outside. So for an MFM drive, which is usually in an XT computer or an XT-based computer, we put in a CF XT IDE inside, which is also helpful because we have to turn on all the computers, and putting in all the different commands is also quite annoying if you have around 200 computers powered on every day. So we try to automate that as well. So a lot of things have SD cards or some kind of USB device, but in a way that it's either not visible or not impacting the computer in a way that can be reversed. So, and for example, all the hard disks we have, we make images of all the hard disks. In case the hard disk will fail, and eventually it will, we will replace that with a CF card solution or a Blue SCSI or something else that's booting and doesn't inflict the computer itself. About CRTs, we don't have really much CRTs that break down, at least unrepairable. We are still able to repair a computer, the CRTs ourselves, and we have a lot of backup CRTs. So in case someone is really falling down, then we can always replace the CRT, and we try to fix the original one anyway.
I think last question. We're almost at time.
Thank you. I'm sure you know about the Enter Museum in Switzerland. Do you collaborate with them, and do you know about any other interactive museum like that?
With Switzerland, I don't collaborate yet. I tried to, but I didn't get any answer. A really interactive museum. There used to be one in the US, the Living Computer Museum, which I'm also trying to help because they apparently still exist, but they're not open, and I'm trying to help them out to see how they can open. But so far, my asking, can I help you? I don't get a reply. So okay, in Europe itself, there are a few museums, but interactive. Yeah, there's the Game Museum in Berlin, which is kind of interactive, but it's gaming. In the Netherlands, in Zoetermeer, we have the Video Game Museum, the Arcade Museum, which is fully interactive because you can actually use all the arcades. But the way we do the interactive with the home computers, I don't know if it exists anywhere else. Not in this scale, at least. Yeah, it's time.
Yeah. So if you're willing, we have a space down the hallway here, and you can field any other questions that you want down there. So that's going to be down over on the left here. And
also in building C, there we have a little bar. We found a bar, so we're using a bar now. It's quite obvious. So feel free to come over and check out. We have 2 Dutch computers with us, and we have stroopwafels. So in case and dropjes, licorice, the sweet ones, so you can all eat it safely. So feel free to come along and have a chat with us, and or outside. And I hope to see you around.